Welcome to Monkey Chatter. Monkey Chatter is a podcast by three great friends who have different perspectives on all things wellness. So let's jump right into today's topic.
Welcome to Monkey Chatter. This is Amy, and I'm sure y'all are shocked, but I'm here with Lara and Michelle, as always. And our topic today is on sabbatical and taking a break and all of that. And we thought it was perfect timing, this being our 50th episode, which I can't
Yes.
believe. I know.
Yes.
Who would have thought we would make it to 50 episodes? Um, and so this is going to air early November. And so we decided that to stick with the theme, we're actually going to take our own little sabbatical and take the rest of the year off and kind of regroup, come up with I shouldn't say regroup, but take a little break and come up with some good plans for next year and different topics and all kinds of fun stuff. We got to figure out some way to use all those fun photos we had done earlier this year. So,
Yeah, we haven't shared any of those in a while.
yeah, no, we haven't other than our podcast cover and stuff. So, yeah, so that's our topic for today, and I'm not 100% sure where all this will go, but I'm sure it will be enlightening nonetheless. And Lara just came back from her own little sabbatical for the last week, um, being in Italy. And yeah, and as always, I'm sure Michelle has lots of thoughts on these. So I'll let you guys decide who wants to start us off with your
We
sabbatical thoughts.
start with Michelle because you earlier were mentioning the definition of sabbatical, which is why we decided the yoga retreat fit.
Yeah. So I really love the idea of sabbaticals and am so uh disappointed that none of my employers over the years thought that that was a cool thing to offer their employees.
Mm. I mean,
So
does it even happen in anything
it
I feel
does.
like
Yeah.
education and
Yeah.
medicine maybe.
So I did a little research because,
Oh.
and yeah, so primarily sabbaticals sort of came about, like you read about them, I guess, in the Bible, Amy, or in biblical times, because, and I'm sure I'm butchering this, but it was something called a Shemitah or a Shemitah or something like that. But it was a year-long break from working the fields every 7
Every
years.
7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was sort of one of the first quote unquote sabbaticals. And if you think about it, probably the same sort of, not exactly, but sort of the same ideas as taking that seventh day, right, for a day of rest. Um, and then Harvard in 1880 started doing paid sabbaticals. And I think that's when most of us have heard about it. It's been tied to academia, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I feel like
professors.
education is
Yeah, right. They take the time off to go and rest and recover, facilitate advancements in knowledge that are in vogue elsewhere. So, back then I think about, folks that would travel to Europe, like Lara just did, went to Italy, to, kind of hang out with other, smart people. And they would have, what were they called? Like salons where people would gather, like artists, and talk about the cool new things of the day. But that was sort of how ideas and everything got exchanged. And so a lot of that sabbatical idea was to expose folks to other ideas, and that's where you get inventions and thinking out of the box and all of that. So that's kind of where it started. And now there are some companies probably about, I think they said somewhere around 5% of companies offer some sort of sabbatical. Usually it's a month to a year. And there are all kinds of variations. Like some of them are paid, some of them are partially paid, some of them are paid and you get a stipend. Like, it's like, oh, that's cool. So, but the whole idea, especially in this day and age, is companies that acknowledge the incredibly high level of burnout that we have amongst folks who work for other folks now. Um, and this is a way, certainly an attractive benefit if you're going, trying to attract talent. And I'm not sure, and this is just my own bias, but it doesn't feel like too many companies are that interested in keeping people around a long time anymore. But it certainly would be, if you wanted to keep and develop people and continue to improve like their level of knowledge and investment and in your industry or whatever, that it would be a way to do that. So
That makes
I just
sense.
think, yeah, I think it's a great idea, right? Because you get fried after you do something for a long time.
Yeah. And as long as, so I can kind of see it working two ways. Like it's great for the person taking the sabbatical because they get the mental reset and the break. But also it's great for the company, assuming that the sabbatical is offered and then the person is required to come back and work a
Mm,
certain number
right.
of months or whatever before, if they do decide to do something different down the road.
Yeah.
Because if they are learning new things or immersing themselves in a different culture in order to come back and offer better solutions for their company, then yeah, it could be mutually beneficial, I guess.
Yeah. When I dug a little deeper, like just from sort of the work sabbatical idea, um, they broke it out into like segments. Like some people do a sabbatical that's just around, personal development. Like you want to go and, uh, get a coaching certification or something like that, and you need a month to do, which that would have been great to be able to actually focus 100% on that instead of trying to cram it in around your quote unquote, paid job. Um, the one that we hear about a lot are like creative pursuits, like when folks will go, on writers retreats, or artists who go and, we have a couple in our area where folks go and spend the summer and do, like Yaddo in Saratoga is one where folks will get a fellowship or a grant or something to go and just work on their book or their art. Amy, this was interesting. Some of them are around sports, like if an employee wants to train for a marathon or wants to, you know, go down that or go climb, Everest or something like that, like giving them that sabbatical to pursue that. And then sort of the common one is research, right? Like you give somebody the time to go research a certain topic. To volunteer was another one, like to take that time and go volunteer their
That's
efforts.
cool.
Yeah, I think well,
Yeah,
and
that is a good idea.
yeah, Patagonia had one that was and they went and did like an environmental internship or something like that, where they would give their employees time off to go do that. And then, rejuvenation, travel, rest, time with friends and family. But I thought, I was like, wow, that there are some interesting ideas around what you could do at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
I
I
wonder if,
totally have,
go ahead, Amy.
no, I was just gonna say I'm totally like having an epiphany moment too. Like I never, I don't know why I never put this together, but like Sabbath and sabbatical,
Oh,
like,
Oh,
there you
and
go.
like I never ever made that connection, which is yeah. Anyway,
yeah. I think we typically think of sabbatical as like a really long term break, but it sounded like the definition isn't necessarily that it's long term. It could be, but the key is that you're doing something different from your normal work routine.
And it has to be
So,
long enough. Like if it's short, it has to be, I think they said most of them, the shortest one would be like a month, just because vacation,
yeah.
like it takes you 3 days just to whatever. And then the other thing too is if you're doing it as a sabbatical from work, there has to be the recognition that you are not doing your regular job.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're on vacation, quite often folks are like, oh, she'll be back in a week. We'll just set it aside and she can take care of it. The company is forced to, or the organization is forced to figure out, who do we delegate these things to, right? And they have to manage without you, which is a little different than vacation.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they specifically, like the stuff I looked at specifically was like it's usually a month at the least, and up to a year, from was sort of the time frame that they gave.
Well, and that seems tricky to me because, like, who does your job when you're gone? I mean, it's got to
Mhm.
be very specific types of jobs. Like, if you're in sales, that's not going to happen. You're not getting a sabbatical because, one, as a salesperson, you're not letting go of your clients. You're not letting another salesperson handle your clients for a month or more. And if you did, then you're fearful that what if your clients like them better or they do a better
Oh my
job?
God, I'd be like, yeah, no, take them. It's all good.
I mean, yeah, like there'd be some of that too.
I'm sure it'll
But
be fine. It'll be
in a
fine.
lot of cases, that would not be so.
Mhm.
But yeah, I never thought about that. Like, and then what if the person that has to take over all your duties does a way better job than you, and your company says like, don't bother coming back.
Well, I think that's, so you touched on it earlier. Like, there has to be some sort of agreement that number one, you aren't just going to leave. Like, thanks for the
Free
year off
vacation.
where I got really smart and learned all these cool new things. And I appreciate that. See you later. But
Yeah.
also on the flip side, there has to be a guarantee of a position when you come back.
Right.
And so it really, like, if you're going to take a year off, clearly there has to be some sort of long term, it has to be something that the company or the organization would see benefit in, because you're basically, if it's around a topic or research or something like that, you're volunteering your time and attention to go and put your effort into that. So it's not like, in all cases, that it's just, hey, go have a really good time in Italy,
Right.
right? It's a little different. And yeah.
Yeah, and I can see value in that. And it could be good for transitions. So
Mhm.
let's
Yeah.
say you're moving towards a different position with your
Yeah.
company, and perhaps it's more demanding, or perhaps it's in a different department where you need different
Or
types of
moving into like a
knowledge.
leadership role or something,
Yes.
right? And because that happens, I think more companies could do a better job with that, right? Where the inclination, just looking at sales, right? Like if somebody's a good salesperson, oh, well, we'll make them a sales manager. Well,
Right.
clearly we know how that goes, right? A lot of the times the skills that you need or that make you a great salesperson make you a lousy manager.
Yeah.
Right? Or whoever is into that leadership role. So you know, I could see a lot of use for it. Again, you have to be a company that wants a long-term relationship with your employees, and I'm just not sure that's really the where we're headed.
Yeah, and I think I see this very much in, like you said, creative or
Mm,
scientific realms where you going out and amassing different types of knowledge will come back and benefit the company.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
also,
also, but I think too, like for entrepreneurs, I'd
mhm,
be really, like if you don't give yourself, if you start to get so into running your business, right? Like Lara, I think what you just did by going to Italy and teaching classes, which isn't something you do in your normal routine running your business. I think without those kinds of breaks, like things get really stale.
Yeah. It it was a really unique experience because since I've opened my business, I haven't done something like that. I've taken vacations, but this was not a vacation in the
Right.
sense that it was a retreat, and I was brought on as a co-teacher or as an assistant teacher, basically, with another colleague and friend of mine. And it was 10 days total, but the retreat itself was actually only 7. I took the initiative to go a couple days early just so I could have some downtime and some, recovery from the travel because it was in Italy. And so it was kind of a mini sabbatical because I wasn't doing my day to day. I actually had all that covered. I have a very good person doing, managing, and she just recently kind of got that little promotion of being the manager. And then, she worked out hours for our other part time helpers to cover the hours that I'm normally there. So there were very few things that I needed to do, on the business side. And I was teaching daily classes pretty much. And I teach a different style than the other teacher did, Colleen, who's shout out to Colleen Potter, Swell Life Wellness, if anybody wants to look her up. Um, she's terrific, but it was a really good complementary mix, the two of us. But there was definitely a little, I don't want to say, I wasn't opposed to doing it, but it was definitely not a vacation. It was very different from a vacation. It was very much more like a mini sabbatical.
Okay.
But what's weird is I was a little bit anxious at times and more stressed than you would be just on hey, like I'm going to go on a retreat or I'm going to be on a vacation. But when I came back, I felt surprisingly motivated. And I
Mm.
guess that's the whole point of a sabbatical, is that you're away from the day to day. You do things that are within your realm, but maybe a little outside your comfort zone. And then you come back and you're more motivated to either do more of that or do some of that in your day to day, whatever it is. So yeah, it really does work. Um, it's also a chance to step away from being so close to something, no matter what it is, and you do get more creative. You do come up with different ideas, and the whole rest and um, rejuvenation, if you will, recalibration, that definitely played in. And then that was only 10 days. So I could see if I did something like that for a month, might be really good for my business. Who knows?
And I may like totally butcher this, but I feel like I have seen or read somewhere that Steve Jobs used to do that, like take a month long or 2 weeks or something. I don't know what it was, like every year. And again, I could have that totally wrong. I should probably look it up before I said it, but yeah, I feel like that was something. And certainly you hear of like the big, like Michelle, when you were talking about the entrepreneurs and stuff, like I feel like you definitely hear of people doing that. Yeah. Hmm.
Amy, if you were to take a sabbatical, what would you do on sabbatical?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what you would do? Let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah, I don't anymore. I think just because of the where I am in my life right now, like, so cancel that. I guess if I were to take a sabbatical, it would be nice to just have some time to literally just sit and let whatever's wants to happen next
Yeah.
just come up and sort of follow those without the pressure of, oh, I have to fit this in between, here and here because I have to make sure to go to work and do this and do that. So I think I'm at a place where that time would be I would use that time very differently than if you had asked me at your age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The immediate thing that popped, like when you asked that question, the immediate thing that popped into my head was something like in the woods in a cabin sort
Mhm.
of thing. Um, and I think it would be like a lot of like eh, still studying. So like, of course I love all the fitness, nutrition, wellness, all of that. So I probably would just go somewhere with electricity and running water would be good, but no TV or anything. Internet would be good because I'd probably want to like look some stuff up. Um, but yeah, and just probably read and learn a whole crap ton of stuff on like fitness, nutrition, wellness, all of that.
Mhm.
And then figure out and then have the time to process that and like think through how to use that information then to help other people. So,
So,
yeah.
you bring up a really good point. I think, and I feel like we talked about this some in one of these podcasts we've done a while ago, but the idea of being able to dig deep into a
Mm,
topic. And I think we talked about that, but you hit on the probably the more important piece that most people don't have the luxury to do. It's like, even if you can find the time to dig in and learn something, we rarely have the time afterward to sit and be like, okay, well, what do I want to do with this, if anything? Right?
mm,
Because we also have this idea that, chop chop, like, if I'm going to spend the time learning about this, there has to be some sort of return on investment, where the whole idea behind sort of a sabbatical is to give somebody time to oh, that looks interesting, look in, and then discard it if, like, oh yeah, never mind, without
yeah.
all the guilt around it, right? The sunk cost idea. Yeah. Lara, you look
Yeah.
like you want to say something.
I was just thinking that, like, I can see from a company's perspective why they wouldn't want some strings attached, or
Mm-hmm.
why they would want
Good.
strings attached. Because obviously, like, you're you're wanting your employees to go out and better themselves so they come back a better employee.
Yeah.
But let's say you're taking a sabbatical just all on your own. Like, it's not
Yep.
company sponsored, like what you're saying, Amy. Like, you could, if you could afford to take a month off with pay or with that. And some people do have jobs that give them
Yep.
that much time off. And I don't know what happens when they're gone or who does their jobs, but there are companies that people get a lot of time off. And then you could go and just get a certification or take a course or do something that just interests you for what you want. And then you can decide, do I want to part ways with this company and do what I want? Do I want to work this in? Do I want to help maybe improve my status at the company by bringing what I learned back? Like, that seems to me like it would be much more beneficial personally if you could afford to take a month minimum, you
Can you
know.
imagine how much healthier, happier, just, you know, I just think about how many people do we run into in our lives who, I mean, we are really fortunate and privileged, right? We have, you know, paid vacation, right?
Yeah.
Or Lara, you own your own business, so you have the ability to be like, oh, I need a few days off or whatever. But I have to, it's hard for me to remember, like, when I really was, not making very much money, and you really were living paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
What that might really help people. like if they knew they could have some paid time off that,
Yeah.
that what didn't have a ton of strings attached to it, right? Like, I don't know, I don't know. When
Well,
you were
and
talking about that, I just was thinking, God, if, think of the people you run into every day who you're like, gosh, you really need a vacation.
yeah, and for those people, like that's just like the whole burnout thing, right?
Yeah.
You're just helping them find some time where they can, rest and rejuvenate.
Yeah.
And maybe, for people, it's kind of, it's similar, but it's not the same. Like, obviously, like we're saying, we're taking a sabbatical from the
Yep.
podcast. So that's obviously a very more traditional sabbatical where we're not going to be doing the podcast, but we're still doing lots of other things. We're still going to be researching topics. We're going to be getting together and brainstorming and scheming and dreaming and all the things that we do, the three of us. But there is this sort of bigger issue with people not having enough time to rest
Yeah.
and take care of themselves. And that's a little different.
Right.
But
Or
we did
even
say,
clear, like I
yeah,
just think about how when you're overwhelmed with, how can you come up with creative ideas,
right.
right? How you're just like trying to uh, make your way through, right? Hanging on by your fingernails. It doesn't leave a lot of space for innovation, creative ideas, solutions. And I just see, I feel like, and I may be making this up, right? But it feels to me like I just see more and more people who are having to live that way, right? Whether it's their own idea of what success looks like, like I can't take time off, right? Like I
Right.
can't, because and you're like, man, if you would just take a couple days off, like I think that would really help you and everybody around you,
Yeah.
The
Well,
stories we tell ourselves.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The stories you tell yourself. I don't have time to go to the gym, right? I don't have time to do yoga class, or I don't have time to go get a massage. Um, in the meantime, you're stressing yourself out to the point where your body is going to demand that you take the time off. And then it's not going to be at your own choosing,
Yeah.
and you're not going to feel very good about it. Whereas if you just say, look, once a week, I'm going to be dedicated to myself. I'm going to take this time. I'm
Yeah.
going to take some rest or
Yeah.
rejuvenation. And as we head into the holidays, again, this is perfect timing. Like, we need to remember that, to not get sucked in with all the busyness of the season,
Yeah.
and try to
Yeah.
remember to take some time for ourselves.
And I think back, like Tony and I just did a little trip the end of September. Yeah,
Yeah,
we went
me
away
too.
and we stayed at this Airbnb on the water. And I gotta tell, like, just because I feel like we pack our schedules full and we deal with whatever the you know POD, the problem of the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
is. And we just kind of address all the incoming, like you said, Michelle, like yeah, sure, you're checking stuff off and getting stuff done, but there's no time for creative time because you're
Yeah.
busy, but you're not effective, if you will.
Right.
Um, but I have to say, like when we were at the Airbnb, and it was just peaceful. Like there was nothing around. It was at the end of a dead end road that was in the middle of nowhere, and it was just so nice. I just feel like we have so much noise in life now that it's like our brains don't know how to function for a little while until it gets used to the quiet. I don't know. Yeah. But
Yeah,
there's
and
a
I
lot
mean,
in there.
people are fearful, I think, of stopping. They're
Yeah.
fearful of sitting somewhere and having nothing to do.
Because then you got to deal with what's in your head.
What's in your head?
Well, I know we
You got
we
to deal
talked
with
about
yourself.
that a little on this retreat that I was just on, where we had some very high powered, very busy, very, very successful women. And then we had some who had just retired. So it was a really
Mm.
interesting mix. But even the ones that retired, were we're saying, like, it's a real adjustment to have time to sit with yourself. And it's also difficult for a lot of people that, you know, they're just like, I just can't sit still, or they don't feel good about sitting still.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that is really important to try to learn. The importance, and Amy's smiling because I know she knows what I'm talking about. Amy's a perfect example.
As I'm like moving all around in my chair.
And we're sitting here
Like,
how long? Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is winter time. I feel like fall and winter are a time that calls to us. Nature calls to us, like the cycle of life calls to us, at least here on the, you know, where we all live in this hemisphere. You know, it's shorter days, it's getting dark earlier, it's getting cooler and wetter, and it's not as friendly to be outside. The leaves are dropping, you know, it's that time of year. And for me, it does feel very much like I want to hibernate a little more. And, you know, I want to rest more. Like, I'm more inclined to cozy up with a little cup of tea in the evenings. And I don't know, like, I feel like if we listen a little bit to nature and what nature and the natural cycle of life is doing, we can let our bodies do the same. Like, maybe you're waking up a little bit later than normal. I mean, obviously we have schedules and we have to be at work on certain times, and we want to go do our workouts and the things we want to do to make ourselves healthier and feel better. But, you know, there could be those times where maybe, you know, you shorten it up a little. You know, if your body is craving another 20 minutes of rest, give it the 20 minutes of rest. And this is from someone who doesn't nap, so I can't say I could make it up in the afternoon. I would love to learn to nap. That is on my list for future.
To-do list, learn to nap.
To actually nap, yeah. On the trip, I did rest. I found time, especially since I wasn't sleeping and I was really, really tired and jet lagged. I would find some time in the afternoons usually to lay down. I didn't fall asleep, but I would listen to like a yoga nidra meditation, or sometimes I would just listen to the outside sounds like birds or the wind coming through the windows, whatever. And I did find that it did help me refocus and kind of feel rested, even though I didn't sleep.
Yeah, when we were on that trip, the timing was perfect because we got there and we just kind of hung out and had dinner or whatever the first night, and then the second day it was nice, so we took the dogs out, you know, went for a hike, did all that stuff. But then the one day it just poured down rain the entire time, and I was like, normally I would have been kind of bummed about that because I am like an outside kind of girl. I like to be out, especially like in the fall. But I was like, praise Jesus. Like, and literally I put my jammies back on. I lied. I don't even think I took my jammies off. And the people who own that house were probably like, because they did have a camera like at the front door, you know? And so when I would take the dogs out, they were probably like, this chick is still in her pajamas at 3:00 in the morning.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you, Amy.
It was freaking amazing. And I was so glad. I never thought I'd say this, but I was so glad that it rained because it was just so like, and it was again so quiet and just peaceful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm telling you, it's natural. I mean, the plants and trees take a break. You know, a lot of animals take a break. Why not people? Like, why do we think we have to go 100% or 110%, you know, 365 days of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very healthy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. You know, our bodies aren't really designed for that. Yeah.
Huh. Well, now you guys make me want to go take a nap.
Me too. I'm like,
Well,
or actually go to bed. It's
right, it's time.
I'm like, we record these in the evening, so yeah. And I just coming back from my trip too. It's definitely past my bedtime if I were still over there. So yeah. So hopefully we're leaving you all with just a little encouragement to, even if it's a mini sabbatical, but do what you need to refresh and recalibrate. I like that word. I think I
I
think
like that
Michelle may
word
have said that
too.
word
I don't know
earlier.
whoever said it,
Yeah,
but
that's it.
recalibrate sounds like a good,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You don't have to, where did I just read something. And I think sometimes we get super hung up, especially when you're going into the new year. And, we have this weird thing in our culture around, doing your New Year's resolutions. And I'm going to completely change my whole life, from it's going to be totally different on January 1st, and sort of letting go of that idea of I'm this thing on December 31st and I'm going to be a completely different thing on January 1st. And instead, just, I think recalibrate is a really good way to look, just kind of take some time and look, use this last few weeks, really, because it's, 8 weeks before the end of the
Yeah.
year, to really get quiet and acknowledge like some of the cool things that you've done over the past year, because we really suck at that, right?
Mhm.
Like we get to the end of the year and most of the time the things that we'll remember about the previous year are things that went wrong, or um that kind of stuff. Rarely do we say, hey, look at all the stuff that I accomplished. Like this past year was awesome, right? Like we did this, we did that, this happened. And then, kind of give a thought to, what do I want to carry on and dig deeper into in the new year, as opposed to
Mm.
what brand new thing do I want to start? Maybe it's just going deeper on some of the things that really made you feel good this year,
No.
right?
I love that.
Yeah.
So, what are each of you uh, planning to do to recalibrate
Mm.
Mm.
during our sabbatical for the next
Do you have something,
30?
Amy?
Not yet, but
Mhm. Other
well,
than
I am actually doing a retreat
yeah,
in mid-December. Yeah.
the silent
I'm,
retreat, right?
I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little silent retreat for a long weekend in December. So that'll be interesting. I can't wait to report back on that.
Can't wait to hear
Um,
about
I
that.
can't wait to hear about that
yeah,
either. That's on my list of things I want to do.
but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm glad you reminded me.
there we go. I think I really have, because I'm getting closer and closer to wanting to retire from, my day job. Uh, as I'm like thinking about that more seriously, I really want to take these last few weeks to just sit and be quiet and take that time just to see what comes up and wrap up. There are some key things, right? Like as you consider that, there are things you have to do like to sort of move that process along, but just sort of check back in with myself on all of that. Like what does that look like? So I think definitely I I really want to use this as not only reflection, sort of like, okay, look at all that's gone on. And then, okay, what really, not like the checklist, not like I want to accomplish this goal or whatever, none of that. Just how do I really want to feel next year? How do I really want that to unfold? And taking the time to try to get to the core of that. Like yeah, it's too easy to just run off and do something else, right? Because that's pretty uncomfortable, like to just sit there and wait for that. Mm,
Mm.
yeah. Lara.
Um, yeah, I really liked what you said, which kind of boils down to looking back on the year and practicing gratitude. Um, And we all know practicing gratitude is important and it can change your life and it can certainly change your outlook, if not your life. But that's what it's about, really.
Speaking of, not to interrupt, but I don't know if you guys saw that Cheryl Wolverton, who we had on the podcast, is doing a gratitude series of emails. I think they start November 6th, maybe, which would be really perfect timing if that really is the case, but don't
Yes.
quote me on that.
Well, that would
That's
make sense around
point.
Thanksgiving, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just signed up for that.
It's sessionswithcheryl.com. And yes, she does do a gratitude. It's great. You sign up, it's free. She'll send you little practices every day. And then if you want to join like any of her other group things, there's options. But that's a great point. I'm glad you remember that, Amy. I just
Yeah, because I
saw that
just
as
signed up for
well.
it the other day.
Yeah, and Cheryl's terrific. She's a friend of mine, and she is a person who has experienced this practice herself. So yeah, I feel like the gratitude, I think ending the year with time to reflect. And because I just had this mini sabbatical, it's really giving me kind of a fresh look. And we had a big year. I had a whole new business basically added to an existing business. And so I really need time to get through the end of the year and reflect back on what was working, what I'm grateful for. And also, like you said, Michelle, a few minutes ago, how do I want to feel? Like the things that made me feel good this past year, I want to find ways to incorporate more of that into the next year. So yeah, get quiet and acknowledge your past, what you're grateful for,
And what made you
what you
feel
want more
good?
of. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like
Yeah. We love that.
that is so fleeting sometimes, and we just take
Yeah.
it for granted. Like when we feel good, we're like, oh, I feel good. We really remember when we feel not good, like
Yeah.
that.
True.
Focus on that a lot. Like, oh gosh, this happened. And yeah, we don't want more of that. So, right, whatever you give your energy to grows. So I guess that makes sense, right? Spend a little more focus on what made you feel really good this year.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's a great way to end.
I think so.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And we're excited. We're going to take a break, but we're going to come back hopefully more recharged and rejuvenated with more incredible ideas for better topics and better guests and all kinds of stuff for next year. So, yeah.
Yes. And if people have ideas,
Send them on over.
let us know.
We're
Yeah,
open.
please email us or post on our social media if you have ideas for topics that we haven't already discussed.
All right. Are we going to try and?
Yeah, we have to.
The
All right.
50 for the 50th time.
For the 50th
That'll be awesome. So confident.
3.
Okay.
We're going quick, right?
Yeah, it's quick.
We're going back.
Okay.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Monkey chatter, monkey chatter. Who you hang with matters.
We did not go quick.
I think that was pretty good, but we weren't quick.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Friends.
I love that.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
fun.
Thanks for listening to Monkey Chatter today. As a reminder, we want to let you know that while we think we are really smart, none of us are doctors or medical professionals. So anything that we say or suggest on this podcast should be run by your doctor before you make any major lifestyle, nutrition, or medication changes. Take care and be well, friends.